Google ads versus Facebook ads. Which one should you choose for your dog training business? This is a question that I get all the time from dog trainers asking me, Elijah, should I do Facebook ads? Should I do Google ads? Which one is better for my business? Which one's gonna make me more money? So in this video, we are going to cover what the differences are between Google ads and Facebook ads. And then at the end of this video, I will share with you which one you should choose for your dog training business. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name's Elijah. I own a marketing agency. We've been working exclusively with dog trainers for about 3 years now. We've generated millions and millions of dollars for our dog training clients. And so we know what we're talking about here. Let's go ahead and dive into the video. So, Google ads or Facebook ads, which platform is better for dog trainers? Now, I just want to go ahead and say this right out of the gate. We have generated millions of dollars across both platforms for dog trainers, and there is not one platform that is better than the other. They are both great platforms and can both completely skyrocket your dog training business. However, they are very different from each other, and they absolutely both have their fair share of pros and cons. So let's go ahead and dive into what those are. I'm gonna start out by sharing the pros and cons of Google ads, and then we will dive into the pros and cons of Facebook ads. With Google ads, I have 3 pros here that I put, and those 3 are high quality leads, it's easier to win better clients, and you can expect very consistent results. So let's break these down. High quality leads. It's important to remember that when you get a lead from Google ads, that's a lead who has already recognized that they have a problem and has probably dealt with this problem for months, if not years, and has gone online to find a solution. So you are getting a lead who is very aware of their problem and has gone online to actively search for a solution. So by the time you get in contact with that person, they're going to be much more responsive. They're going to be serious buyers, they're not going to be tire kickers, and they're going to require a lot less work to move them down your sales process. You don't have to call them over and over again. You don't have to remind them that they filled out a form. With Facebook ads, you can kind of run into problems like that, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So high quality leads with Google ads, that's by far the biggest advantage you're going to get from this platform. Now here I have easier to win better clients. So you're going to get leads who are high intent and ready to go, who have already recognized they have a problem and are willing to invest in solving this problem. And they're going to be much higher value, and typically they're going to be willing to spend more, because you have to remember with Google ads, you're getting a lead who has recognized they have a problem and they understand they have a problem. Therefore, your solution will hold a lot more value to them than someone who sees your ad on Facebook and says, oh, that seems nice, and then opts in. It's like they saw the ad on Facebook and they said, oh, that looks nice, but they're probably not in that much pain. They're not actively looking for a solution like the guy on Google ads was. And so chances are they're simply just not going to value your service as much and not be willing to spend as much. All right, then here we have work with more of your ideal clients. So this is a very important thing to touch on, that when you have a low quality lead that comes into your business, it can affect everything downstream. Meaning when you get that lead who is low quality, it's going to be harder for you to contact them. They're going to have a lot more questions to ask. They might not even remember that they filled out the form in the first place. And then let's say you do book an eval with them and you do move them down your sales cycle. With a low quality lead, chances are by the time you service that person, they're not going to be your ideal client. They're not going to be someone who's super serious about getting training. And then what's going to happen is they're not going to do the homework that you assigned to them. And then they're going to blame it on you for their poor results and leave you a bad review or tell people bad things about you. And all that can come from the fact that you just got this low quality lead on the front end that had all these negative downstream effects. So it's very important that you're bringing in high quality leads into your business. It's like what you get in is what you get out. So with Google ads, you can expect much more high quality leads and overall work with more of your ideal clients. And then right here, we have very consistent results. So one of the beautiful things about Google ads is once you have spent 3 to 6 months really dialing in your campaign, they will just hand you the highest quality leads on a silver platter day by day by day and prioritize you over all these other competitors who are competing for the same keywords and dog owners that you are. And it can be very consistent with low management involved, reliable performance, and predictable results. Now, here are some of the cons we have for Google Ads. The first one here is technical to set up. The second one we have is it's more expensive. And the third one we have is a small TAM, or total addressable market. So let's go ahead and break these down. The first one here we have is technical setup. So Google Ads does tend to be a bit more confusing for people who aren't familiar with running ads. There's a lot more metrics you have to consider than on Facebook ads. And there's quite a bit more of a learning curve with Google Ads than compared to Facebook ads. So it's a bit more technical. And then without a doubt, Google is more expensive, at least when it comes to lead cost. So you can almost always expect your leads to cost more on Google than on Facebook. However, this is something that's very important to keep in mind. You can get 100 leads, but if none of those leads become clients, it doesn't matter how many leads you get. So yes, lead cost is an important thing to consider, but what's more important is your customer acquisition cost. Because if you get a bunch of low quality leads and none of them convert, you might have gotten each lead for $5 each, but if you spent $300 and none of them have converted yet because they're low quality, then you're much better off paying for $50 leads who convert at a 30% rate, where you only have to spend $150 to acquire the client. And so it's very important that you remember lead cost is only one factor and customer acquisition cost is much more of an important metric to look at. So yes, Google Ads will be more expensive for leads, but that does not mean it's going to cost you more to acquire the customer. And then here we have small TAM, or total addressable market. And this is a very important factor to consider when you're running Google Ads. So you are only targeting people actively searching for a solution. And so one of the big pros to that is that they're going to be very high quality. But one of the cons to that is that you are only targeting dog owners who are actively searching for a solution. What about all the other dog trainers out there who need training but aren't actively searching for it, who have dealt with a bunch of issues with their dog and consistently deal with issues but aren't actively looking for a solution? You're not able to tap into any of that market because with Google Ads, you're only targeting people who are searching for the solution at that moment. So I actually have a diagram here to help bring this point home, because this is a very important concept to understand about the differences between the two platforms. On the outside here, you have the unaware market. So these are people who have dogs and deal with problems, but don't really know that they deal with problems. Like they might think it's fun or good for their dog to jump on people and go, oh, that's just how the dog is showing love. He's just excited. They might not realize that that's not good manners for a dog to partake in. And so you can have a market of people who are dealing with problems, but don't know they're dealing with problems. So that's your unaware market, people who have a problem but are unaware of it. And then you have the problem aware market. And these are people who have a problem and are aware of the problem, but don't really know much about any solutions that are out there. And then you have the solution aware market. So these are people who have a problem and they are aware that there is solutions out there. And this is what the vast majority of your market's going to be. You know, a lot of people who have a dog know that they have an issue with their dog, and they also know that there's training available that can potentially solve that issue. And then you have product aware. And these are people who are aware they have a problem, they know there's solutions out there, and they know of you. They know your brand, and they know of you as being able to solve that problem. And then you have most aware. And this is the market who has recognized they have a problem. They know there's solutions out there, and they are ready to take action and get this problem solved. All it takes is for you to put the right messaging in front of them, and they're basically ready to go. So with Google Ads, a lot of your leads are going to be coming from the most aware market. And though they are the highest quality, there is all this other market out here that you're not really tapping into. Whereas with Facebook ads, you can tap into the product aware market, solution aware, problem aware, and the unaware market. So with Facebook ads, you have much more ability to create demand for your product. Whereas Google ads, you are just waiting for the demand to show up and then putting your business in front of it. So to summarize, with Google ads, you're going to get much higher quality leads, you're going to get higher quality clients, and it's very consistent, but it does require a bit more technical skills. It's going to be a bit more expensive, and you are only targeting a small market. So there is some missed opportunities out there that you aren't going to be able to capture. Now let's dive into the pros and cons of Facebook ads. So one of the biggest pros to Facebook ads is that it's easy to set up. You're going to get cheaper leads. It's great for brand discovery, and it expands your total addressable market. So let's go ahead and break down these pros. Facebook ads is much more user-friendly, and it's a lot easier to set up. There's a very small learning curve, and it requires much less technical skills. So it's much more user-friendly, and that's a giant pro to Facebook ads. And then of course, cheaper leads. Like, you can expect your leads to be cheaper from Facebook ads, and it can absolutely mean that you make more profit. Not always, but it can absolutely mean that you make more profit because the leads are much more affordable. And the next one we have here is it's great for brand discovery. So one of the beautiful things about Facebook ads is that you can force your brand to be put in front of dog owners over and over again, where they're constantly seeing you in their feed on Facebook. Not only does it cause more people to discover your brand, but also through frequency of being exposed to your ads, the prospect will develop familiarity with your brand and be much more likely to convert. And you can take someone who wasn't that interested when they were first exposed to your brand to very interested 2 or 3 months later after seeing your ads over and over again. And I know we've already touched on this, but with Facebook ads, you expand your total addressable market. So Facebook ads goes beyond just targeting people actively searching for a solution. You can create awareness and demand. So again, if we go back to this diagram here, with Google ads, you're really just capturing a lot of the most aware and solution aware market. With Facebook ads, you can actually branch out further into a much more wide market, like the problem aware and the unaware market. So you can essentially give yourself more opportunity to scale your business. So let's go ahead and dive into the cons of Facebook ads. The first one we have here is ad fatigue. The second one we have is less quality leads. And then the third one is less reliable targeting. So with Facebook ads, one of the biggest annoyances is that you have to continuously upload new creatives, which are, your videos and your images that you're using as your ads. We call those creatives. And what will happen is you might have an ad that works really well for like a month, but then slowly just starts to fatigue and the results become worse and worse. And so what you have to do is add a new creative to refresh your ads and expose people to a new hook or a new angle, a new creative, in order to bring that lead cost back to where it was originally and continuously get good performance from Facebook ads. So that's one of the big ones. Ad fatigue sucks, but it's a part of the platform. And then here we have less quality leads. So without a doubt, the leads you get from Facebook ads will not be the same quality as Google ads. It's just the nature of the platform. It's expected. The leads you get will be less responsive. You're gonna get more tire kickers, and they're gonna require more work to close, and usually aren't willing to spend as much. And the third con I have here for Facebook ads is there's just less reliable targeting. One of the things I've noticed with Facebook ads versus Google ads is that with Facebook ads, you'll target a radius. Let's say this is your city right here that you're targeting, and maybe you exclude all these outside areas that you don't want to target. And even though you've excluded all these outside areas, you'll still tend to get leads who are in those excluded areas or even further than those excluded areas. And so sometimes Facebook can have really wishy-washy targeting. And so that's kind of one of the annoying things about Facebook ads, is that the location targeting is not very accurate. Now we've weighed out the pros and cons of Facebook ads and Google ads. So now it begs the question of which one should you choose? Both platforms can absolutely skyrocket your business, but they each have pros and cons, and they each fill gaps that the other cannot. So if you really are serious about scaling your business efficiently and you want to get the most from paid ads, then without a doubt, you are best off using both platforms. However, if you had to choose one platform right now, this is the criteria I would look at. So with Google ads, you probably want to have a bigger budget of say 1 to 3K a month. You want to have programs in the range of 2 to 5,000. If you have less resources to work leads, meaning you don't have time on your hands and you don't have a big team, then you might want to consider Google ads. If you value quality over quantity, then without a doubt, you probably should choose Google ads. Now with Facebook ads, if you're on a smaller budget of say 5 to 750 a month and your programs are on the lower end of 5 to 2,000, you might want to consider Facebook ads. If you have more resources to work leads, meaning you have more time on your hands or a team who can follow up with these leads and call them as soon as they come in, then Facebook ads can be a great option for you. Because if you have a badass team or yourself who is like willing to call leads as soon as they come in, who is willing to follow up with leads and do what they need to do to get these leads moved down the pipeline, then Facebook ads can absolutely be very profitable for you. But if you don't have as much time on your hands and you have more money money than time, and you value quality over quantity, then I would absolutely say Google Ads. But again, if you really want to scale your business efficiently and get the most from paid advertising, then you're best off using both platforms. And that's because you are going to be able to target the most market with both platforms. So that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys got some value. Hopefully I helped give you some good information that you can think about to consider which platform is best for your business. If you don't want to set this up yourself and you want to just have a team who can run your Google ads and Facebook ads for you, that's what we do. Feel free to click the link below this video if you would like to consider working with us. You don't have to click the link, and just be aware that link, once you click it, it is going to take you to a video of me pitching you on our services. So if you don't want to be pitched, don't click the link. Otherwise, if you got some value from this video, or if you have questions, leave a comment below, consider liking the video, and of course, consider subscribing, because we are going to consistently deliver high value content for dog trainers. With that said, appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one.